We're back with another super special guest. Today's guest is a pro wrestler. He is the champion for the Sanctuary Studios. He is also the heavyweight champion for Three Legacies Wrestling. He is the thespian. He's the drama daddy. Ladies and gentlemen, J.S. Hawthorne. J.S. Hawthorne, first off, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So this Saturday, December 28th, you have a big title match against somebody you're very familiar with in Zoe Cannon. We'll get to that, but I want to start with last August, Red Rose Rumble 1. Just the build up to that, the anticipation around Lancaster. What was that like for you? Just your thoughts going into the match.
Um, yeah, so I had only wrestled like a handful of matches, not even no more than two or three for 3LW before that like before the actual Rumble. Um, but like the year prior, there was like a joint like show that was done with a bunch of companies in the same baseball stadium. So I was like, I kind of that was the first time I actually knew Ricardo was even in this area, or I thought he was just brought in for that, and then I was like, oh, he's actually staying. Okay, cool, neat. Um, and then yeah, so I just found my way in once I realized they were putting shows on and made my way in, and then uh, the Rumble itself happened, and that was pretty wild because it was the first and last time they did like the drive-ins for like
Mhm.
the actual matches, and all the Rumble people just walked out, but it was still just the spectacle of everything was really cool. Um, and then there was a good like 2,000 plus people at the first one, um, and that's pretty impressive with like very little like knowledge of the product being there. Now that 3LW is kind of more established over the past couple of years now, which is crazy to say. Time flies, but that was it was it was not like surreal, but it was very very exciting.
As we know now, you eventually go on to get that win. Just what was that moment like for you from, a personal and kind of professional standpoint?
Um, I'm trying to think if up to that point, because I've fought a couple WWE guys before already, but I'm trying to think of if Gene was the first one that I really got a big win off of, because I lost to Swan, I lost to, well, no, I beat Kazarni just recently. But yeah, no, I think that was my first one. It was a new company that I hadn't shown much in, and then I knew the implications of what the win was, and so in that moment of like, oh, they think it's Gene, they think Gene Snitsky's won this whole thing. That's super cool, great for him, and then I pop up
Mhm.
and everyone's super pissed, and I'm like, I am incredibly hyped. Like I don't very much show that side of me to be more like just uh excessive, but that moment I was very excited for it, and that trophy I do miss it, but yeah, I've gone on to get better ones.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like we said, you win that trophy, and then there was a few months in between there where you teased it a couple times. But then
Couple
March
months.
this, yeah, then March this year rolls around, the downtown showdown. What made you decide that event in particular to do the cash in on that night against Bro Killer?
Man, it was just it's one of those timing things of like you can only you can only tease it so many ways and make it interesting before people are like, whatever, it doesn't, he's not, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it was good in the way of how I liked defending the
Mm,
trophy itself, the stipulate. Like I was fully willing to, every time that I went out and wrestled, like if I lost a singles match, I'll give them the trophy. Like that was my
mm,
whole kind of deal, whether many people really understood that or not. But um no, that night it was we packed the Lancaster Convention Center, and that was the first time we were there, and so I wanted that kind of memorable thing to, yeah, we could have a successful show and whatever, and Bro could defend his belt, but like, unless there was like something earth shattering, there wasn't, it wouldn't have a sticking place as much versus, okay, yeah, main event, Bro Keller versus Shannon Moore,
Hmm.
but I didn't pin Bro, I pinned Shannon. So I got, that's my second WWE alumni check. That was, and I'll always say that in the match I had with Darian Hardway, who he beat my ass in that one.
Hmm.
I barely sweat a drop, but by the time the main event happened and like the people warmed up the room, I
Hmm.
did 5 minutes in the main event. I'm just pouring sweat. It was all worth it for that title.
Yeah, yeah. Now you are still champion, but how would you describe your reign from that point March until Red Rose Rumble this past August?
Um, so from the time that I actually picked up the trophy for the Red Rose Rumble, I started kind of half jokingly putting out the moniker of the ultimate opera tunist because
Mm.
I love puns. But also, I really tried to make the run so far about opportunities, and really I wanted not only just opportunities to give people to showcase themselves, but then opportunities for me to then showcase myself through them, which is where very much in the spirit of what I am, I held auditions, and that gave me a chance to really see what talent are trying to come up in 3LW, and then also give them a platform to showcase themselves that they wouldn't otherwise have be seen through. I was just rewatching some of my matches, even before my championship match. I had fought with like Just Jay and Al Snook, and I was just commenting of like, man, those guys are still within their first like year or two, and they are crisp and good, and so that's definitely been a lucky part to get to be around a lot of very talented people. Um, and then yeah, this has been outside of like my, because I was trained up at the sanctuary, and I'm still the champion there, but like
Mm.
this has been my first heavyweight like championship run outside of that, and it's been my first time to like be trusted by another company to really kind of carry the brand enough to even defend it in Puerto Rico, and so it's I've been incredibly lucky in that regard, but it's always been a matter of um showcasing competence and
Mhm.
trust, and then following through on ideas and things like that, and that's even where um Zoe challenged me to the hair versus title, and I would be incredibly remiss if I didn't make a little bit of a Sweeney Todd reference in there
Mhm.
for so that's why I had to make that music video.
You mentioned it, your trip down to Puerto Rico this past October. What was that experience like for you?
Um, do not eat mofongo and carne fritas before a match. You will fall asleep or at least get close to it. And if
Mhm.
you're non-military and you're wrestling on a military base, you're not allowed to buy anything from the grocery store without a military ID. So I couldn't get caffeine. Luckily, someone had pre-workout.
Oh,
But
wow.
that was just a fun little moment. Everything was awesome. Getting down there, I unfortunately got down there a little bit late, but so I didn't get to enjoy it as long. But um, got to walk around Old San Juan with the 3LW belt, and people in Puerto Rico, they love them some lucha libre, and all they
Mhm.
needed to see was see the belt, hear the words, and they were like, "Oh, can we get a picture?" They don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're just like a champ. I'm like, yes, me, thanks.
Mhm.
Um, the sun hurts in the Caribbean, so
Mm.
that I'm of fair complexion. So I was like, I want to be on the beach. No, I don't. Uh, I'm not for more than 5 minutes. Um, Yeah, and then wrestling Wilfredo down there. He's very talented. My favorite thing was I got to, before the match, I really was kind of because I don't know Wilfredo. Like I've studied some of his stuff, but I didn't get to like see him in person,
Sure.
and I got to see him kind of operate the way I have operated in a lot of locker rooms, like Sanctuary or other places where it's like I'm I have to do so much stage managing stuff and focusing on other people's kind of timings and making sure everything's set for everybody else.
Hmm.
And then I know what I'm doing. I can like I'm set to go, but I have to delegate and do all these other things. And
Hmm.
so that was just like a interesting like similarity I saw between us. I was like, okay, okay. And that and he brought it. Like we didn't need to, there was no any forethought to it. It's just we went in and did the deal. The fans are phenomenal.
Hmm.
It was a bit more family friendly than I was like told about. So I was full expecting because I like making people mad. So
Yeah.
not to mention the fact I did the Madonna with a Puerto Rican flag. So I mean I was waiting to get something, but mostly it was just old abuelas yelling puto at me. Can't complain.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't
Now
have to go to
that's
the hospital.
right. Yeah, that's always good. Now that's clearly, not technically international, but close. Was that your furthest, like, away from kind of mainland?
Yeah, I'm still my this calls out to everybody. My passport is still valid. I'm still itching to use that. Um, Canada's on my list. Anywhere international, I'm definitely down to go. But yeah, being that was the first time I was flown out to do something, so that made me feel special.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was really cool. And then yeah, the Buena Lucha Libre, they're a great company down there, and I know Nahira Robles, she comes up a bunch, and just it's a good just exchange for talent and people. It's just it's a networking life, and that's just being available to travel. That's really always been my kind of my impetus of like, hey, I'm available. Hey, I can go do
Yeah.
this thing. Hey, let me. I done. I'll travel. I'll do it myself. Just give me an excuse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one way I kind of describe like pro wrestling to people who aren't like massive fans is that it's like a lot of like theater in a way. I think you kind of epitomized that in your role and stuff as the thespian. What came first for you, the love for theater or pro wrestling?
um, I'd timing wise, it's probably theater first, not necessarily a love, but like,
Hmm.
hey, I want to go do this thing. So that started in like middle school, sixth grade.
Hmm.
No, sixth, seventh. I didn't get into wrestling until around that same time.
Hmm.
Um, and here's the thing. Like, even when I was younger, and I kind of was like curious-ish about wrestling, and my dad would tell me things about like this crazy mad lad, Cactus Jack, and this fucking dude. Sorry, language.
Okay.
Doctor Death, Steve Williams, and he would just kind of offhandedly mention some of these guys and some of the things they did, and then once I got access to the internet, I was pretty much gone from there and being like, oh well, let's go look up this and this and this, and then I'm watching Raw and SmackDown and Impact and all this stuff, and yeah, that was that was basically it from there.
Yeah. What made you go from like just being a fan to actually being like, okay, I want to try this out for myself?
Well, I had always had like an athletic background as far as like I played football, I did track, I did a little bit of amateur, but I really wish I would have stayed with it.
Yeah.
Um, and then when the question of college came around, I'm like, well, we're not in the world where I can go and get a degree in professional wrestling yet.
Right.
Um, they've had programs and degrees, but it's not, you can't get a full out like performance degree in pro wrestling though.
Right.
You could do it. But it would be a theater performance degree
Hmm.
because that's we know what pro wrestling is. But yeah, no. So the college question was like obviously like I'm going to do something I enjoy and I thoroughly enjoy and I'm talented at. theater, so I'm going to really expand that because at that time I already knew that pro wrestling, what it was, predetermined and stuff, and I was, oh man, if I can be, because always the best and most memorable characters are characters. They have a life and a spirit to them. Like there are certain times where, okay, yeah, they're incredibly athletic. They're very smooth in the ring, but they're just they're just a piece of paper. They're just boring. They're blank. They have no interest. Great. I can carbon copy you 1,000 times with your athleticism and your look and all that, but there's nothing about your personality or opinion that makes me intrigued to give a crap. And if people don't care, why are they watching? They're not going to watch. So that's where I was like, I wanted to really kind of understand what made a character believable or immersive. That's my favorite thing now to really kind of
Mm,
touch into because there's no immersion anymore. The sure, I appreciate that the veil has been pulled back, and
mm,
sure, people can suspend their beliefs like nothing else, and people are like, oh no, it's all, we can't do that stuff anymore. It's like, no, you can do all the cartoon shenanigans. You just
mm,
have to have enough be clever enough to write it in such a way. It's the same thing of like, I can make a joke about literally anything, however filthy or crude, but I have to have the wit and intelligence to structure the joke around it. Like South Park, they're the masters of that. They can
mm.
literally make a joke about anything. It's all
Yeah,
offensive, it's horrible, but like it's funny because they structure it that way.
correct.
So yeah, college was just the theater, and I was like, yeah, in college I'm like, my plan is to become a pro wrestler. I just knew that at the time. I just didn't have enough access or know where I could go. And then on the last day, in the last class, and like the last 20 minutes of my college career, I was like, yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. And someone in my major was like, yeah, I train at Sanctuary. I'm like, that's not far away from Bloomsburg.
Mm.
And there you go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And how would you say your character has like evolved over the years?
It was always kind of theater dependent also at the time. So like I have to put theater on the sidelines when I'm prioritizing wrestling because theater happens on the weekends, rehearsals during the weeknights. And so I have to take out like a chunk of time for bookings and be like, I can't do it. Like I can, but I can't risk my health in certain degrees if like I'm doing a contract. But that's usually when my facial hair will change and do stuff like that. I'm trying to think of when I kind of came across this look was I just I had the big beard, yeah, I could do a bunch of stuff with that, but it didn't carry the look, that
Mm,
as much. It doesn't say as much as this does with the theme.
mm.
But my hair grows up to my eyeballs except for on my head somehow. Um Clearly. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of carved it in this way. And then as far as just the performance goes, I I like to try and be as versatile as possible, and because that's the magic of not only like the spirit of the gimmick that is the thespian, because like a thespian is not just an actor, is not just a stagehand, is not just whatever. I can play any role,
Mm,
and that's what I try and do. And that's where it's like some people's like, oh, they try and do everything, it doesn't work. It's like, no, that's because it doesn't make sense for them to do everything.
mm,
I'm in the position and the background to say I can fill any role because it's what I do. So
mm,
I have that justification, and then I go and do that role, and they're like, "Oh, he really could do it all along." And I was like, "Wow, he's actually really talented." Like, yeah,
mm,
the point. I wouldn't be doing half of what I do if I didn't have the confidence to kind of pull it off. And I know my limits. I know where I can say, hey, I can't do that, but I can adjust it to make it work in this frame. and I've learned definitely how to work smarter, and just like just because I can do certain things doesn't mean I need to do certain things
Mm,
to protect my livelihood.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, personally, I love your aesthetic, but I think the fans want to know, will you ever shave your back?
Um, Probably the only thing that would really make me want to actually shave my back, and like here's the problem. I can't just do my back. I have to
Right.
do everything. Like it's top to bottom. I Because I shaved my chest once in high school, and I wanted to die because I felt like a cactus because as it grew back, it was just prickly and awful, and so I'm never had to do that again. But if I were to, my back would only get waxed or shaved if I really wanted to do like cupping.
Mm,
So like the therapy of cupping, um, tens units, because tens units can't stick to certain parts of my body very annoyingly. Um, I guess I could do at some point in my life, I'll probably be like, fuck it, I'll do a hair versus hair match, and they're thinking, oh, he's gonna
mm,
shave his head. No, you're gonna shave my back,
yeah.
or that, or maybe that, yeah, they want to shave my back, and that's the deal. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I got options.
Yeah, I think you should keep it. Don't let those fans get to
And
you.
that's the other thing is I could so easily slip into whatever werewolf gimmick or barbarian, whatever the heck. And yeah, I can do that, sure,
Mm,
whatever. But and again, certain things have been done to death a million times, but you can always find a way to make it unique to you. And that's the other thing. I'm not to again toot my own thing, but like I'm visually intriguing to look at
yep.
because I'm like I have one just the body hair is not something like Nick Camarado was like, holy crap, are you hairier than me? And I was like, yeah. Um, but even that, I got like a sleeper build. I'm not like super chiseled, but I'm deceptively strong, and but at the same time, I'm weirdly like I have feminine curves in some places, and that's just like I'm I. I'm not just, oh, yep, I know what a muscular body looks like, or I know what this kind of body looks like. It's a, well, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to jump to the promo, just the most recent one with the barbershop and everything. What exactly happened there? All we kind of see in the beginning, Zoe takes a sip of water. Next thing you know, it's kind of a duet in the barbershop there. What happened there?
Um, I'd love to kiss and tell, but that's not
Mm,
my goal in that whole deal was I wanted people to make suggestions as to what happened. Was
mm,
it a dream? Was it not a dream? Did it really happen? Is her
ooh,
hair cut off? What's happening here? So I don't I can answer things, but I like that's that immersion, that's that mystery, that's that what's actually going on.
mm,
I will say that um, doing that segment with a respiratory infection was horrendously difficult. Um, but thankfully, Tariq is a master of editing and was able to cobble together something cohesive. I have such incredibly high standards for myself that sure, I definitely see where things could be massively improved, but if I only released the art that I was like 1,000% competent with, I'd never release anything ever again. I'd never make
right.
anything again. Everything that I've ever made has had like some kind of mistake somewhere. I'm just like unhappy. But that's just the art of making. And so um, Zoe, for her part, willingly or not, played her part well. Um, and I I did it less for me.
Mm,
Let's say that the Sweeney Todd thing, that was a, I couldn't resist. It made sense, and I would be remiss and disappointed if I didn't take the opportunity. Um, I want it to motivate Zoe
Mm,
because she has potential, but I feel that her being a bit carefree as she has been
mm,
will not lead her to the success that someone like me could guide her to.
mm.
But
Yeah,
not yet. As it stands now, I'm trying to figure out if I should give her a bob, a reverse mohawk. Not sure yet.
yeah.
What do you think I should give her?
The reverse mohawk sounds incredible. The
Do
mullet,
do
it's
like animal from like Hawk and Animal, where it's like down the middle and off the sides, so you just do a double streak.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then that match itself, obviously, predicting, you're thinking of what haircut to give her, so you see yourself winning, but how do you see that match itself going?
As I said, I couldn't me simply saying some mean words to Zoe. She's a tough girl from Boston. Like words are like water on a duck. It's not. I needed to screw with her psychologically,
Mm,
and I haven't heard from her, or no one's really heard much from her since. There's been no presser or anything of her saying something.
yeah.
So, um, I'm not really sure where her mind is at as far as the match, but I can hope that it makes her approach the match differently than last time, because last time was she I picked her because of her potential in the audition. She did great, and I wanted to give her the match. Um, I wasn't I wouldn't say disappointed, but
Mm,
I saw something there that could be more, and I'm hoping that she brings that more.
mm. Now, Bro Keller, do you see yourself giving him another shot in the future? He still claims you don't have a pinfall over him, or you kind of past that?
I've given him a couple shots to try and get it back, single, multiple. It's the three strikes rule. It's not fair to anybody else, and that's part of the opportunities things. Like I could keep doing it back and forth with Bro until we're in a cage, we're doing whatever the heck. But then there's so much talent in 3LW that justifiably they get wins and they want to challenge me, and that's their prerogative, and that's where it's like I I wanted I just the opportunities I wanted to provide it and see who would step up, and if the circumstance comes later on that Bro truly does earn another shot, fine, fine, I'll beat him again. But it's just it's played out now. People don't need to see it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then, like you mentioned, you're still champ at Sanctuary. Also, I know you made your PPW debut recently. Just where do you see yourself expanding? Whether it's returning to some of those places or just expanding elsewhere for next year.
Sure. Yeah, I'll pop back into PPW. Start because I know a lot of the locker room there. Um, yeah, that's new ground in there. Um, gonna keep poking into West Virginia, WDWA when I can. Gonna try and get more into the Pittsburgh scene
Mm,
with 880 and MV. Gonna keep going up to Scranton and trying to expand up into Williamsport with Smashmaster, that Bloomsburg area too. Um, Trying to get into more in the Philly area, Jersey, I guess, when I can. Uh, More into Maryland. I did a little bit with FWA, um, and then just trying to do more with MLW. I'll be going to Dallas for their next show, and then we'll see about Atlanta because I do have a booking that day. So
mm.
I'm trying to expand it everywhere I can and get the connections and hopefully get asked to go overseas when I can.
What exactly is an uncultured swan?
The fact that you have to ask means that you don't want to. That's my favorite response because like people, there are certain people that will just like message me on my personal Facebook about wrestling, and I'm like, please don't. And then, or they'll do the Hawthorne account, and I'm just like, okay. And they'll ask me these questions, and I'm like, the fact that you have to ask just proves my point.
Mm.
They're like whatever clarification you're looking for, even if I did clarify, you wouldn't get it. And that fact alone, I don't have my stickers with me. I just got like 100 pack of stickers now with its Department of Theater Grade A Uncultured Swine.
Mm.
So those will be with me, and you can purchase those or just receive. Some of you people won't. I'm not. You're suffering enough from your unculturedness that I'll just stick one right on you, and that'll be that. But yeah, yeah, uncultured swine. That's just that was one of my early tags of just being like, how to address the people, and it's like the ones who understand me and support me. Those are my patrons.
Mm.
An artist loves his patrons, but if you don't get me and you don't like me, you're uncultured. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, also. But just before I get you out of here, what advice would you give, whether it's those three legacy students or just anybody looking to get into pro wrestling? Some advice for them.
Probably the most recurring one is the eternal words of Cowboy Billy Walker. Right time, right place, right face. Who you know gets you there. What you know and do keeps you there.
Mm.
So really don't try and compare your journey to anybody else's, for comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm.
Um, you are allowed to have fun, but remember you're still doing a job. You're at work. Um, this is just my own kind of personal pet peeve of like of there's a massive difference in the world of wrestling where this was another tagline I used was all the world is my stage and all the men and women merely wrestlers.
Mhm.
Um, and I say that because there's a difference between wrestlers and pro wrestlers, and being a professional wrestler is something that the wrestlers don't understand. They're just like, hey, I'm gonna go do my little indie circuit, and that's basic. And it's not even offense. I'm not trying to be offensive to them. People will do what makes them happy within their realm, but they have to understand there are other people with different mentalities about it, and that it's just it's that there's a certain level of professional courtesy that needs to be given, um, and not just given but earned on both ends. Um, but advice for, again, that's for everybody. Just try and be fucking professional. Sorry, I dropped F for that.
That's all right.
But it's there's a lot of, and the business it has come a long way, and at the same time, while the accessibility has become massive, that also breeds the potential for more abuse
Mhm.
or manipulation. So just kind of keep your head on a swivel. Listen to everything. Just
Mhm.
because you don't value someone's opinion doesn't mean they're not going to say something that will be of importance.
Right.
Um, and it's you're never not gonna. Everyone always, "Oh, you're never not gonna learn something." It's like, yeah, you're gonna keep learning and keep learning and keep learning, and it's never gonna stop. And if you stop learning, then you can stop wrestling and get out because other people are trying to keep the wheels turning.
Right.
The spokes of the wheel change constantly. So, but
Mhm.
the wheel rolls on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's become like kind of a meme now, but things become memes because they're real, like that I gotta get my shit in thing. Like, how do you feel? Like, obviously, how do you find that balance of wanting to show what you can do and also.
I think it comes to knowing, having the self awareness. Yeah, get always get your shit in. That's what you're here to do. because we hired you to get your shit in specifically. I can get 4 other guys to get the same moves and stuff, but we wanted you specifically because of how you do it.
Right.
Knowing when and how to do it that's that extra kind of nuance of, okay, just because you can do it and people hired you to do it doesn't mean we just want to see you do it. We need to care about you doing it. Or we just saw someone in the match before you do it. Why are you doing it again?
Right.
Or communicate. Yeah, it's just that sort of thing of just general bad. People can't write script. A lot of the times, and I'm struggling with this currently. Of just you have to be nowadays. You definitely have to become a very good choreographer,
Mm.
and some people's choreography is very contrived or very unrealistic, and it loses that sense of the fight. And sure, you. I am such a proponent for gymnastics and athletics and things like that, but if you can't translate that into the combat, then it loses all of its importance.
Mm.
And that's where it's like, be sure, be incredibly talented physically and being able to maneuver yourself in the air and all these things. But if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, it's going to get real old, real stale. And if your personality is that of a dead fish, then I whatever. Then really all of that means nothing because I don't care about you as a character versus, oh man, I have this emotional attachment to let's say like Rey Mysterio. I
Right.
know Rey Mysterio can do some incredibly physically insane stuff, and he's been doing it for an insane amount of time,
Yeah.
but we've always had that emotional connection to Rey,
Mm.
and it's almost never been lost. And so then when he does something and or he messes something or he gets hurt and like there's that genuine like, oh man, not Ray, not Ray.
Yeah.
And it just there's and sure he's earned that over the years and it's built up and it wasn't always that way, but you see what I mean of like having that emotional connection means leaps and bounds, uh, in my opinion, to being able to do something crazy, you know. And you're only going to be able to do that crazy thing so many times till your back breaks, and then you got to change up your stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if people only cared about you for doing the flips and you can't do the flips anymore, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of when I hear that, the first person that comes to mind for me is like Ricochet. He gets a lot of kind of hate for the mic stuff, but he's an incredible athlete. But yeah, it only take you so far.
I loved Ricochet before I knew who Ricochet was
Mm.
because I loved Lucha Underground. And
Yep.
Lucha Underground did such an amazing job of immersing the entire universe of what Lucha Libre was in that SoCal area. I didn't care about Boyle Heights. I cared about the temple in Boyle Heights. That
Mm-hmm.
was its own character. And everything beyond that, everything within those doors, suspension of disbelief, gone. I was I've never been as much of a fan as I was during peak Lucha Underground. And
Mm.
Prince Puma, that was a perfect baby face. I didn't his mic stuff was minimal. I didn't need that from him. I
Right.
needed him to be the Superman like Lucha Libre guy, and that's where in that world that they built, everything made sense. Like it didn't it made you care just
Mm.
because of the circumstances of how they built it. Now, because we're in the world of pro wrestling, where it's, oh, these are real people, how their character is actually how they are, yada yada, whatever the heck. And so it's
Mm.
behind the scenes. So yeah, I wanna actually see how this person is, and then we overexpose people to a certain degree, and then it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Next, scroll, 5 seconds,
Yeah.
scroll, scroll. So, but yeah, it's so important to how like something is structured that helps get that initial care versus, okay, we know the WWE product, we know the AEW product. It doesn't, unless the writers give you something to bite on, there's
Mm,
not immersed simply because it's there.
yeah.
I'm just like, oh, this is new, this is something, okay. And then versus there was just something, I don't know. I think I was also biased because in a time for Lucha Underground, like WWE, some of the worst writing and garbage. I was so over John Cena and all that stupid BS. Uh, Impact was in the Dixie Carter, Hulk Hogan, blah 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 garbage era. I'm like, oh, and then I come across Lucha Underground and El Rey, and I'm just like, this is like from the production value to just top to bottom, the theatricality of everything they did was the I can't praise it enough. It just had everything I'd ever want, and it's gone now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a massive point. All the immersion and just making people care at the end of the day is what really matters. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your
Yeah, dude.
time. If you just want to plug your socials, where can we find you?
Sure. You can probably just look up JS underscore Hawthorne or some variation of that on Instagram, Twitter, because I refuse to call it X.
Me too.
Good, good. I do have a Threads for Instagram, whatever. I don't use it as much, but it's there. Um, I do TikTok, but not as much as I used to, so it's not really that. But JS Hawthorne on Facebook, that stuff. DM me for bookings and stuff. I'm trying to think of any other random stuff, but that's basically it.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Saturday, December 28th, you have the holiday bash. Can't wait to see what haircut you decide to go with for Miss Zoe. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Hunter.